Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is your boy, Coach John Smalls. Thank y'all for tuning in. Welcome to Coffee Time with Coach. Hope everybody had a good night's rest because I did not. But I feel refreshed because I have coffee, and coffee is always the perfect way to wake up in your morning. I'm sure some of you adults are going to have some other things to say about that, but coffee works for me. Okay, so cups up. I have an amazing guest for you today. I'm so honored that he had time out of his busy schedule to be here. So I really can't wait to bring him on. Like I said, I just want to thank y'all for tuning in. And yeah, we're not gonna waste no time. We're gonna get right at it because this brother is the real deal. And I'm happy that he's here. And if you have any questions, always post them on IG, post them in. But if you can come on to YouTube, come on to Facebook, and post it that way because that actually helps me out a lot. And I can actually send it to a lot of places. It makes it a lot easier for me to see it that way than for me to fight and try to find it in another route. So I have someone who is looking to do some amazing stuff here, and I want to make sure I introduce you all to them this later on in the week. Some honorable mentions that I'll have and stuff like that, and all that good stuff. And yeah, I'm trying to. Okay, that's not gonna work for me, so we're just gonna get right out of that. And I was trying to do something here, but Mike in the building. So let me introduce y'all to the very first time. Some of you may already know him, and if you don't, you'll get to know him today. Welcome, my guest, Mr. Dasan Ahano. Dasan, what's up, my brother?
Man, nothing much, man. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good, man. I can't complain about nothing. It ain't gonna do no good.
Well, first, let me thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you here. I was happy I was able to reach out to you in short notice and get you in. When I first decided I was going to do this, there's just a certain select group that I wanted to make sure I had time to bring on. Definitely you. I've watched your works and things that you do. So to have you here, it's an honor for me. So first thing I want to do is let you introduce yourself to the people here. Let them know who you are, where you're from, what you do, and you know how that goes. You do interviews
Yeah.
all day, bro.
Man, so I'm Dasan Ahanu, North Carolina born and raised, born in Raleigh, adopted by Durham. That's where I'm based at right now. Um, and man, my life is art and culture, man. So educator, scholar. I work in higher ed, teaching creative writing and hip hop. Um, I'm an arts administrator. Currently running a grant artist fellowship program right now. I'm an artist myself, poet, writer, MC, performing artist, playwright. I run a theater company. Just I work with organizations, helping them do art-based projects, help out with some festivals and conferences, man. Just whatever I can do in terms of centering this art and making sure people don't forget about what we're doing out here.
Awesome stuff. So first, I want to say I hate North Carolina this time of year because at 6 a.m. it's 40 degrees, and then by 12 o'clock it's like 90, and then I'm freezing all over again when I go to sleep. So
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's real temperamental, man. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, up north, it makes a decision and sticks with it. Down here, it's like, I don't know. I think I want to be warm now. Yeah, I'll be cold again.
I learned that the hard way, and I don't get me wrong. There's some things I love about North Carolina. Don't get me wrong. I've grown a lot as an adult in North Carolina. So North Carolina isn't the worst place to be. I will say that. In fact, when you look at how many movies they film in North Carolina is a hot spot for movies. I mean, they film everybody's movie here. Initially, I thought when I got into thinking about writing films and stuff like that, I thought that that's why people were here because the taxes were cheap, but that's not the case. Because I think Atlanta and Delaware have the cheapest taxes when it comes to that. But man, they love North Carolina. But the scenery is amazing, and I definitely like that. So yeah. So let me ask you this. Let's talk about. I just have a few questions that I do with my guests, and then I'll turn it over to you. I just kind of warm you up a bit, I guess.
Okay.
As far as an educator, how long have you been teaching, and tell me like some of your greatest moments.
So that's okay. So there's a two part story to that.
Okay.
So um, working with young folks, I got started um, when I was a teenager. So one of the things down here is that when you age out of summer programs here with Parks and Rec, and the minute you age out of 14, 15, you can get your workers permit, and that's one of the first kind of jobs you can get is to work for Parks and Rec. And so um, my mom got bored with me one summer. Um, I was supposed to have been at football practice, and I was being a bum. And we were supposed to be doing, off season 2 days, what have you. And I was trying to avoid working out. And she said, "I got a trick for you." And so she took me down to the center. I had just aged out. She took me out to the center where I had been at and was like, "Put this boy to work." And so that's where I started. They put me to work. And then I had an aunt who worked with Head Start, so I got to help out. She was like a director for Head Start, which is pre-K here. Did that, after school programs, all of these kinds of things I did growing up as a way to make money. And I did that all the way into my freshman year in college. So that's where I started getting used to working with young folks. My mom kept telling me I was going to be a teacher. I was like, no, I'm not. And then, when I got started going to open mics and everything, I got asked if I would come and just visit some kids. And I'm always down for any opportunity, man, to help out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of led me to doing and developing workshops.
Yeah.
And so I started getting back into that, because I had that familiarity. And once anybody found out, you used to do something, they were like, "Well, why don't you come and talk to the kids and do some writing stuff?" I was like, "I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out." And then 2006 is when I got a chance to move into higher ed. An old professor that I had who also knew me from community work pitched the idea to my alma mater, my undergraduate alma mater, and they bit and let me come on board to do some things on campus. And I got a residency there. And they're the ones who convinced me to go get my master's so I could actually officially be on record as a professor. So that's how I got into it, man. And I think the thing, I love teaching writing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I really think about the things that stand out to me, it's the connection. So there's two kind of moments. One is after teaching writing, and one is before. When I was in college, I initially went to North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, and they took me and put me at this outdoor park. So there was no gym, no nothing. It was this outdoor park in the middle of this rich neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go out there and sit every day and watch kids go by and be like, who is the Negro at the park as they're on their way to golf and and soccer practice.
Wow.
But I did that for about three weeks before they got real curious and came down to see who I was.
Mm-hmm.
A couple weeks after, man, they would just come and hang out. And then by the time we got halfway through the summer, I had them down there at the park with me. They would get done with whatever activity moms had planned and come racing down to the park to come hang out. Mm-hmm. And then I could go back over there on the weekends and just hang out. And the kids would come down. They remember who I was, go there and play basketball or what have you, man. But it was real cool because I always wondered how I got thrown over in that neighborhood because I didn't see a kid like me in that neighborhood. Right. But by the time the summer was over, you know what I'm saying, them kids had me all over there, man, playing soccer and what have you. That kind of relationship is the kind of thing that always sticks out, as being able to create a space where young folks feel and can build a certain level of trust. There was no issues. I didn't have no parents coming down there wondering who you going to hang with. If anything, parents are coming down there, thank you so much. My son comes back. My daughter talks about you. So glad for what you're doing in the community, man. It was a real thing. And so for me, that was important. And I couldn't wait having had those experiences
Mm-hmm.
to be able to then add and give these kids a tool like writing, which is something I didn't have the ability to do before. But once I learned and figured that out, I'm like, oh, we can establish this trust in these relationships, and then I can like give you this thing you can use to like express yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, then we about to have a ball. And that's been what it is. Like these kids have been I've had some like really, really, really transformative experiences with like what happens when you give them that outlet.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a guest that has a question. A viewer has a question. Do you recall a student that truly connected to writing in one of your classes? And if so, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, I've had a few of those. And it's so crazy because I recently, last April, I did this program at East Elizabeth City State
Okay.
University.
Hmm.
And I had been there doing some town halls with the students, just kind of getting the temperature of the campus. But it was April of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So I was down there with one of the counseling centers, um, and a young lady walks up. She's like, Dasan. And I look and I'm like, hey. And she's like, do you remember me? And I was like, no, like refresh my memory. And she tells me who she was. So I have a friend who was doing a residency out in the country in North Carolina. And he was going to be gone. He had to go to New York with his band. He had a really important gig and recording session. So I filled in for the week.
Hmm.
Went down there. One of the writers down there, he was teaching them performance and everything. So I went down to specifically do some writing exercises. Young lady uh, decided that she wanted to really address her relationship with her father and the dynamics of this, the split between the parents and everything that she was dealing with and some of the things she had seen. One of those things where, I had the same kind of situation with my father when I first started writing and performing about like this Rick and my mom about like how much they do not think that you see.
Hmm.
And until you tell them, they're completely unaware. In that week that I was with them, she decided to write a piece and was going to use that as her piece to perform, which means that none of this had ever been said to her father, and she was going to do it on stage for the first time.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, and so like she wrote it, she finally felt like she could share it. She shared it. Everybody's, peers are all like loving on her.
Hmm.
She's teary-eyed. I'm falling apart, man. But to do that, and it turned into this thing where that was a moment of being able to open the door for her to have a whole completely different kind of conversation with her dad. But it also was amazingly empowering. So then I see her at East. I see her now. She comes on. I'm like, well, cool. It's so good to see you. She was there helping out with the event. Next
Uh-huh.
thing you know, she jumps on stage to do a cover. I didn't know she could sing.
Wow.
She's up there. She's tearing the stage down. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And, and she just talked about being able to have that opportunity to find her artistic self. And so she writes, she sings, she's like doing all this stuff on campus. But that, like that moment of giving somebody that tool and see it just open the door to that person that they really are.
Those are, I'm getting chills because I understand that. Those are the moments as an educator, as an instructor, as a workshop facilitator. Those are the moments, right, that make you remember, this is why I signed up to do this. This is why. Wow. I think that's amazing. A lot of times we don't realize we don't realize the impact till later. And then I always tell people, you never know who you're going to see again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I did the first time I went into actually to speak to children when I started doing poetry events here in Charlotte. First time I did that was at the it's like when children are in the system, in foster care and those things, and the young lady gave a poem. And I always share this story because I want, a lot of women go through the same thing, but the young lady shared this poem about, her dad and her brothers, uncles and cousins. And she felt like the only reason why she was there was to give them what they wanted, man. And It broke me, yo. It sound like, because this was my first experience talking to children like that. Now I've worked in rec centers all my life, right? It's funny how we all that do this, like we have a similar background. Worked in rec centers all my life, coaching, just being a counselor, youth counselor. You know how that works, right? Never have I had someone present a poem about this, right? And then what am I supposed to tell her? Broke me. I was like, because I'm hurting for this young lady and don't have what I need to give her. So that kind of launched what Granny's Boys decided to try to do. So I'm saying that to say, when it happens, right, I'm not even going to know how to address this young lady, because the poem was so powerful to be 13 years old. And then to be in a 13-year-old mindset and to think about writing it in that manner was just like, oh man, blew my mind. Blew my mind.
Yeah.
My mind. I'm sure you have a million stories like that.
Yeah, it's just so much so that part of what I've been doing is telling, whenever I'm dealing with a community organization, I'm like, look, you need to be mindful of what we're discovering when we show up to do work in a community. It's not always thought of in that way. Like, folks are excited that we're there because the kids get a creative outlet,
right?
But nobody thinks about exactly what that opens the door to and what they begin to start to share. And I'm like, if y'all really thought about it, you would be plugged in to where we are. Because if we're successful in what we do, then these kids are going to start telling a bunch of truths.
Come on.
And so, when you're thinking about the kind of services and support you want to provide them, like, y'all need to be aware of what kind of teaching artists are working and where they're working, who they're working with. Yeah. Because guarantee you there's some truths, and you'll get a sense that have not been told anywhere else until they get a chance to work with us.
Yeah, there's something that they see in it's something in how they see themselves in what we do, right? Because it's not us. We're just opening the door, right? And I try to tell people this all the time. If you come to a workshop that I'm doing, I'm just opening up your mind to something that you might not have been accustomed to. And then you can take everything that you put in that has nothing to do with me. I'm just giving you a little leeway, and everything you put in that is you. One of the workshops that I love doing because people actually end up looking at themselves totally differently. Becomes a different thing. So amazing.
Hold on 1 second, John.
Okay. So if you're on the live, we're talking to Dasan Hanu. He is breaking down some of his experiences as a creative writing coach, as an educator, as an instructor. Amazing. I hope that you caught that powerful message he just gave. And if not, you're watching the replay, but it was very powerful. So if you just you can check on go on YouTube, my YouTube channel, or Respect the Mic Slam on Facebook. It's on there. I think I shared it on my page too. Also on the Empowerment Duo, I'm on that page as well on Facebook. So if you just tuned in, thank you for tuning in. Man, this is. I told y'all this was going to be a very powerful one because I know I know some of the history, right? And I'm learning some things too. Okay, we have a question here. We got a couple of questions. I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
First question was, I think you answered, do you enjoy teaching? Oh, it says, do you enjoy teaching or learning more, and why?
It's a very good question. Very good question. I love learning. And honestly, for me, teaching is learning. There's just a relationship with it, but learning feeds how I create, and it keeps me curious. It keeps me digging and searching for things, so that I don't settle in the way that I create or think or question or interrogate. So just the idea that there's more to learn is important to me.
Another one. If you could give one writing lesson in one sentence, what would that be? Wow.
One writing lesson in one sentence.
So this is coming from a lot of people who we've become friends on Instagram,
Mhm.
and we are actually doing some things together. So a lot of these people have a lot of respect for Granny's Boys and what we're doing. So I'm sure these are the kind of questions that's coming because of the conversations we have. So, which are great questions, though. Great
Yo,
questions.
no, that's an amazing question. One writing lesson in one sentence. Yeah. Um, always remember that anything is possible as long as you believe you can write your way there.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. It's one more in here. I think you answered this already. Are you receptive to writers without any teaching?
Yeah. See, the thing, the one of the things that we got to dispel is a lot of the perception, a lot of the things that we kind of have to sift through are put there by gatekeepers, and it's cultural, and it's it's industry. It comes from these places that 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 aren't about where the writing starts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, honestly, for me, I would much rather someone explore writing
Okay.
uh, prior to formal study, uh, because I believe in discovery, I believe in process, and when we think about ourselves as kids, like we played and then started to kind of understand and gain what we were playing with and what playing was, and then you build. But you've got to have a chance to play, man. Like,
That's the key.
you coach. Like, there's a difference between a kid that came out the park playing, just out there emulating his favorite players and throwing the hoop around and the way they approach, and a kid who's been camped up and trained up since they were little because they had the privilege of being. There's just a difference.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what I learned was the difference is one kid is way more apt to adjustment. And when things don't go the way they think they should, that kid has a totally different perspective than the kid who's been trained a particular way. They don't know how to adjust or adapt. And so, so many similarities between sports and writing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, give yourself room to play. And then when you start to learn and take some class, like when you default the training comes,
Mm-hmm.
you start to see, okay, you have a wider range of how to apply the things.
Yeah.
And you're drawing from a different place. And I think that's so beautiful, man.
Yeah.
But that doesn't get valued. So a lot of folks feel like that the training is where your writing begins. I'm like, nah, that's BS. That's not where it is. Your experiences are where the writing begins.
Mm-hmm.
Your training is how you build on what you know and refine your ability to be able to deliver your thoughts. But nah, that's not where it starts.
Yeah. And I think you know this, but if you don't, I'm gonna say it anyway. I didn't hate slam. I just never expected to be a part of slam. Right. I don't mind watching it. Right. But I was like, nah, I'm not going to slam. And then when BlackBerry came, we sat down, and then I took over with respect to my slam. Even then, remember, y'all still didn't really see me slam.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then I would pop in because in my mind I'm like, well, let me learn this thing before I jump myself wholeheartedly into it. Now I've had after the first year, because the first year we still had 3 rookies on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I've had rookies every year, and then I've had people who've only been 1 year, and now they're with me again, they're 2 years. Now they're with me again, now they're 3 years, right? So I had, I guess juniors at the time. However, still I wasn't really slamming because I wanted to learn more about it. And then I actually got to sit back and watch my writing as it grew in learning it. And the magic in that was being able to teach people from my experience from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the best part about that was I learned it kind of just sitting back and just instead of somebody saying, hey, this is the way you need to go. Right. And I've been to your workshop, which that Lil Wayne one still got me jacked up, bro. Like I will never look at Lil Wayne the same ever again. Right. Anyway, let's get off that for a minute. Let's talk about some other stuff. Let's talk about family, your family circle growing up. What was that like?
So, I grew up as an only child, so
Wow.
which is another big thing. And my mom and pop, my mom was 16, my dad was 17 when I was born, and so my mom was still growing up herself. So I grew up with parents growing up. My grandmothers were really, really instrumental because of that. And my mom, her mom was present, but she was the oldest of five, and so there's three other girls in the house. My uncle stayed with my grandmother when my grandparents split. My dad's mom had two other daughters in the house. Her oldest daughter was with her dad's family. My grandmother had remarried. And so she was heavily involved in helping to also raise my mom, which and claimed me from off the gate. So, I had my mom and then these two matriarchs that were there. And that was sort of and around a bunch of black women. So that's kind of the environment I grew up in. There was a little while before the next grandchild came around. There's another grandchild on my dad's side. We're the same age,
Okay.
but that's his oldest sister's son. She had an older daughter. I saw them sporadically, but they lived elsewhere. There's the same amount of years between the next grandchild on both sides.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm the only grandchild on both sides. You can imagine that grandma tug of war for like a decade. You know what I'm saying? Um, but so that's the way that came. And then by the time my little cousins started to come, I'm starting to be a teenager. So my relationship with them is a little different because I didn't grow up with kids. So I started to kind of help babysit and did that. So we're close, but there's just that gap.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I didn't want for anything, man. A working class family, we didn't have a whole lot, but I didn't want for nothing. I saw some miracles get made by these black women in terms of just making everything stretch. And, I had uncles and my mom's mom got remarried. And so he was, good dude, truck driver, postal worker, like that kind of, get you a good solid job with benefits. You work it till you retire. And that's the kind of upbringing I came from. He was a good old country boy out the fields. And my other grandfather was a teacher for many, many years. And then, whatever side hustles, say, how we do.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of environment, man. And because I was the only kid, they kind of let me, I was spoiled, definitely. Like I said, I didn't want for nothing. But also they kind of let me just kind of find my own way. I was around adults a lot, but they kind of like always made me find my own way. Curious, kept giving me stuff to do. So my ability to like imagine and be imaginative and explore was cool. They let that run. They let that run and kind of fed it. So I learned to read early because they fed me books. It's just more. Now that I'm adult, I realize when I was young, I thought it was cool. Now that I'm adult, I realize they were keeping me occupied, so I didn't bother nobody. But because of that, any toy, any learning thing, anything they could afford to get me in or give to me, they gave it to me, and I ate it all up. And so that kind of fed that learning piece because I'm curious by nature, and it was like either give him something to do or he's gonna start rambling and be mischievous. So let's keep him occupied. But that's the way, man. Like for most of my life, man, my two grandmothers were the center of my family circle. We gathered around those matriarchs multiple times a year, every year until they passed. So that's most of how I grew up and a big part of who I am.
I'm listening to your story, and my mom. You've known me well enough to know my mom is my superhero, right? And when she comes to our events, I'll make sure everybody know. Look, that's our mother. Me and Wit's like, that's my mom. She in the building. Show us some love. And I mean, everybody received my mom so well. And I'm thinking, listen to you, and I'm thinking of the poem I wrote. Let me tell you what God looks like. And when you look at the plight of the black woman, right? Oh my gosh, like what? I don't care what higher power you believe in, even if it's just energy or if it's just spiritual. If you don't see that in a black woman and her struggles, I don't care what you get from that. You're going to say that. I mean, that is that image, man. Like when you have that, right? And I understand people have different stories with their moms and different plights. I always tell people like this. My dad was around. He kind of left when he was around till I was about 8, and my mom was like done at 8. And I learned things about my dad, and I had to ask myself this first. I said, well, if you were in his shoes, what would you have done? Because I can easily say, oh, he should have done this or he should have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say that I would not have done the same thing he did in his situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to accept that for that, right? But even in that, what about my mom? You know what I mean? Like she could have been something else. I always tell the story. My mom had a scholarship to dance with Alvin Ailey in this hand, and she had the other hand on her womb because I was in her belly. And they told her she had a decision to make. Had she chose differently, we wouldn't even be on here right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no way I can't honor that superhero that I've always known. So I get it, bro. I get it. I get it. I get it. That is amazing. Um, let's see. I got fatherhood.
Thank you so much.
Fatherhood. Right? You have
Yeah.
a daughter, right?
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about that. You know, it's amazing. All the men that I've brought on that we've talked so far, everybody has a daughter.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Man, so it's a powerful thing for me, just given, I mean, and folks who know my poems, the one of the things that I've addressed, just because I'm a man, is me and my pops. And so because I'm for my pops, I'm the oldest of 8. Um, and so, just carrying that weight, and you grow up hearing, that worry and concern that you're gonna be like your dad, and for me, being the fact that I was born when he was 17, so much of those young dumb years, I'm present for. And so then it's really heavy, because everybody's struggling with him about like, yo, get it together, get it together. Because of course, there's that point in time where it's like we have time, and then you get to a certain age, and you're like, well, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. So that was just heavy on me. And when I used to always say, like, I didn't want children unless I was in the right situation, because I'm looking at this. And they used to always laugh, and I was like, if I could magically be able to, and it had an impact on how I thought about relationships. But like, if I could magically, like, if I could have a child, because I always work with kids and knew I could be good, then that would be good. But I would not want a situation where there's this dynamic between me and the other parent if we can't be right. And so that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And then I met a woman. She had a 1-year-old. We started dating. We fell in love. I also fell in love with her daughter, and she put this opportunity in front of me for me to be in Nicole's life.
Wow.
And regardless of what happened with our relationship, we kind of went through a tough time where we had to kind of find a way to build a friendship. The one thing she was like, I'm not going to keep that from you.
Wow.
And so Nicole's dad was going through whatever he was going through, which was real familiar for me. I knew exactly what that was. And I got a chance to be there.
Wow.
Knew the family, had already met the family, they were cool with me. So I had access. I was able to be there for those moments. And then we got to middle school, and they had moved, and we had a conversation where she's like, look, she's starting to get into some of the things that that you also are into, that she'll start playing sports, like there, she was like, she's growing into this dynamic young woman.
Wow.
And I need help. And so like, she was like, I really need for you to be here and be present so we can do this, because she's going to need both of us. And I'm like, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I'll always be grateful for that. I'll always be grateful for her throughout this whole journey. Because Nicole's 25 now. Throughout this whole journey, to allow me to be there. And then for Nicole to just, to be in a place where She's like, yeah, like these are my parents. And so that's been amazing, man,
Yeah.
because you know, for me is parenthood is one thing, and just to watch this, yo, there's some moments, bruh, like watching this young girl grow up, and um and some of the things, our relationship and some of the trust that's been built, some of the conversations I had to be okay with that I never thought that I would be okay having to have, bruh. the the moments, and you know, you can't, you before you were in that situation, you always have a perspective about how you like, I'm a, and then when you're in it, you realize you can't really do that. Like
That
that ain't
shit
really
work.
the answer. And so like, man, I've grown so much, man.
Yeah.
Just being able to watch her, and like she's wrapping up grad, you know, she's in her last year of grad school.
Wow.
Just an amazing person, man. And we have so many things alike. It's just really dope. But just also, I have to give, you know, when I'm not one of those people that says that like being a poet or art like saved my life. Um, but it changed my life in ways that I can't repay enough,
Mm.
because that journey and what it opened up to me, because social just like it opened up this all this understanding to me, wasn't just for me. It put me in a place for some of the things that she went through
Mm.
that my folks out here, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
equipped me to be able to handle when she was facing it. I had heard it, seen it, knew people, had conversations, could pick up the phone and be like, yo. And the other life that I was headed for, I can't say I would have had that kind of circle. And
Yeah.
so I'm amazingly grateful. And for her to be able to see me, you know, reach and kind of take some risks, and for it to be the way that it is, for her to believe she can do the same and she can be creative and imaginative in her own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. You know, I have an 18-year-old daughter, and Tamika and I have a baby on the way now, January.
Nice.
So,
Yes.
bro, I'm at it again. It's going to be a different ride this time because experience teaches you some things, right? Um, I'm gonna be honest with you. When my oldest daughter, I told her mom at the time. I said, you know, when that time of month come, if she happens to have her cycle and you're not here when you come in, she'll be laying on the towel when you get home. I'm gonna bring her soup and you know what I mean, like you think right, like you're not prepared for some things, and it's amazing how just listening in will allow you to learn so much.
Mm-hmm.
And so, first of all, salute, man. Just hearing that, I love to hear dads that's, you know, and there's something about when a father has a little girl. I don't care what the dynamics might have been prior, right? Once that little girl's in his life, there's some things that change.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to see when I talk to men, especially black men, and they say my daughter, and their whole face lights up.
Yeah, man.
I didn't realize how my face lit up until I did that last book for my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And now I got to write another one for this one because I know when she gets old enough, she'll be like, well, Dad, you wrote one for her. Where's mine? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. That is a beautiful story, Dasan. Beautiful. I want to talk about something that is going to be kind of a lot of fun. Let's talk about this sneaker game, bro. So if y'all don't know, Dasan sneakers and socks be on point.
Man.
Where did that come from? Where did that start, man?
So, okay. It's wild. It's wild because it starts from a place that most folks won't expect. So, you know, because I didn't grow up. Uh, I got lucky. So, you know how it is. You get going back to school clothes each year. Then, of course, if you're lucky, you got Christmas. My birthday's in May, so it's 3 times a year that I can ask for at least one pair of sneakers. Right? So I got lucky. I got lucky. The timing couldn't have been any better because I'm in a working class family, so there's no J's, no what have you. But what I peeped was okay, if if I only got one pair, yes, 3 pairs a year. That's, you know, that's good for any kid.
Mm-hmm.
but let me figure out like what I can clean my joints with. You know, I what kind of shoe I asked for, because I definitely didn't want anything that I was going to run into the ground too quick, so that I could have some options. You know, I mean, I wasn't dressing or anything. I just just like the idea. It was something about having a nice sneaker on my foot. And then of course you always kept your old joints for balling, for hooping, cutting grass, what have you. But my dad's mom, when you talk about black women and miracles, man, I don't ask no questions. I don't know how, but like, she get a couple knocks at the door a few times a week, and folks would be like, "What you need?"
Wow.
And she could find stuff on the low, and so she would just surprise me with a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And it might not, like I said, never had any J's or anything, and sometimes just the kicks, they'd be name brand, but they'd be a color. I'm like, I ain't never seen this before. But I'm like, but they new and they clean. And I'm like, let me get them. And folks be like, where you get that from? I'm like, bro, I don't know. Grandma pulled a miracle. I opened the box. I was like, I don't know what's good. But I'm rocking these joints. They're like, yo. So it was just, my grandmother took pride in those kind of things, especially for having a young man. Easter suits, back to school clothes, a little something for Christmas for the winter. They just like me. They like to see me. But growing up, I had no sense of style, bro. So it was a tug of war with my mama because I just be throwing stuff on. And my grandmothers were very particular. So there were certain moments that I had to be like together. But for the most part, man, I throw on some sweats, throw my sneakers on, roll.
Yeah, good.
I had this moment in high school because up until 7th grade, my mom's 5'4". My dad's 6. Dad's the former athlete, 6'3", 6'4", 5'4". Me and my mama looking eye to eye.
Wow.
7th grade, I start to get a little taller. I hit a big growth spurt between 8th and 9th. So by the time I'm like 16, I'm 6'5", 6'4", 6'5". So now there's an issue buying clothes that fit. My arms are long, my shoulders are broad. It's a pain. By the time I get out of high school, I'm now hella self-conscious that I'm like huge and skinny. And so here's how it started. I wear size 13. For a long time, I could do 12, 13. So now it's 13, 14. The one thing that I knew I could find in a store is my shoe size. I may not always be able to find a shirt that fits or pants that fit, but I can find a size 13 or 12 and a half. So for me to be able to feel fashionable, I started building what I wore with a clean, fresh pair of kicks. Growing up, kind of coming up and being like a teenager going into the 90s, what I'm saying, you could put on, a pair of pants or a pair of jeans shorts, a fresh pair of kicks and a t-shirt. And if everything looks clean, you doing something. You know what I'm saying? You throwing a little chain or whatever, and you doing something. And so that's how it started. It started with just being this, being a big dude and wanting to not, wanting to still be fly. And I could always set whatever off as long as I kept a clean pair of kicks.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And the other thing about growing up with black women is that they taught me to shop, because you ain't never seen bargain shoppers like black women.
Bro.
We'll find a sale deal. You like, how, what? Know what part of the store to search, the whole nine. Go up and ask the person, like, look, there's a smut, like they already figured out, I know exactly what to get that out with. But, hey, excuse me, can I get 20% off? Because the whole nine. You be mad as hell, be running around all day as they go from store to store, come back, all kinds of stuff, done hooked up everybody and pay like $40. And I've been out all day. Know where the flea markets are, the little spots and stuff. Who got the joints in the back that got sent down from New York because somebody rode the China bus up. Like, it's a whole thing, bruh.
Yeah.
And And so that became my thing about sneakers, like the hunt for being able to cop something fly on sale.
Yeah.
And so that's how the collection built, man. Like I could have been like, well, this is the new joint out. Let me go cop this. And I got homies like that are on it. My bro, my cousin, is like a brother to me, is Polo and Jordan down. Has been that way since we were little.
Wow.
Like Polo and Jordan down.
Yeah.
So he copped a new release. And that never felt right, because for me, it was like, yo, I was over at this little skate shop and caught these joints, and then folks be like, oh, I ain't never seen nobody rock those. I'm like, word. Yeah. So that's how it started, man. And then the socks just came along after, because I just love color. Like the artist in me is just like loving colors, man. But that's really how it is. That's really how it started. It wasn't like I was just a fiend for the latest sneaker. It was just a way for me to be distinct and to kind of like build my own sense of style. Was, and it was cost effective. You know what I'm saying? Like I could, if I had to go to the big and tall section, and anybody that's tall or big out there knows our section be whack, bro. Like it's where fashion goes to die, bro.
Oh wow.
So like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're all these muted colors over here. Why y'all doing this to all the big and tall people? Why all the muted colors over here, bro? Where the design, where the flash? So I gotta wear these jeans, and then I gotta go get like, you know, a solid shirt, because the rest of these shirts are weird. When I put these joints on, and and the color in the shirt is in the kicks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I moved, and it's like, oh, because everybody noticed I'm the biggest thing in the room, so everybody's like, oh, I see what you did. And so you don't have to go through this thing where you're the biggest person in the room trying to shrink.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because you stand out so much. You can now just kind of walk in and do your thing.
Yeah.
And that's it, man. Like it's a different kind of like self-awareness. That dudes don't talk enough about. Like we hear women and you know, and perceptions of beauty and all the things they deal with kind of showing up, but dudes don't talk enough. And it's funny because whenever I see another tall dude or whenever we chopping it up or what have you, you know, we had that moment. And then, you know, there's always a moment where you talk about everybody paying attention. You kind of nod like, yeah, another tall person. Whenever you chop it up, you know, you share. I've had more conversations about clothing with tall dudes and big dudes than I have with any other dude.
Wow.
Because you never know where to find shit. So when you see another one, you like, yo, bruh. Especially if they look fly, you like, yo, bruh. Like, there's a scene you look up and down, and then you get to chopping it up. Like, where you find stuff at? Like, where you get those? Like, yo, you know, yo, check this out. Go over here. Like, what I started doing was hit up this website. Like to this day, because it's a chore.
Wow.
It's a chore.
You know what's crazy? Because I don't think we actually formally met until I brought you here for a feature. Right? Then that was CIAA weekend. And when I saw you, obviously I don't know you that tall, right? And then when I saw the face, and then the closer you got, the further my head was going up. And I was like, this is freaking ridiculous. This guy's 6'11". You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know then that I didn't know till Southern Fried, and then I started seeing you more often after that first Southern Fried. I didn't know then how the kick game went on. And you know, my brother Witz is all about the socks too. He loved. So the funny thing is, I'm born Halloween. Orange is my favorite color. Always has been, right? And you know, the beautiful thing about orange is the national color for gun violence awareness too. So it's just so amazing that I love the color for so long, and then at 19, I'm gunned down, and here I am, gun violence awareness, my favorite colors. Like, well, how's it happen? But I've always been into bright colors. I love the yellows. I love the orange, the bright. I mean, look at me. I'm always with a bright color, right? Yeah. I'll put on all gray and put on a ridiculously yellow hat because that's my color. But I didn't know the shoe game was like that, bro. And then I'm like, you know, you're mad tall, and then boom, it's dope. It's dope. Like if we always see the shoe before we see you. That's just the way it works.
Always going to be that. And the other thing is that, you know, there's always going to be color in the backpack because, you know, we carry. I don't like solid color plain backpacks.
Gotcha.
And so those are two things, like your
I'm
kicks.
taking notes and shit. I'm gonna start.
So, matter of fact, I just ordered a new bag. Folks are gonna laugh, but my favorite color is blue.
Okay.
So any shade of blue, especially dark, like true navy blue. And I just ordered a Mickey Mouse joint, navy blue joint, Mickey Mouse joint. I'm like so excited, you know what I'm saying? Because, but it's just those moments, man. It's for me, and it's like when kids are forced to wear uniforms and the sneakers are the only thing that they can, you know, that socks and sneakers are that little moment, or accessories, you know, girls will do things in their hair. Like, it's like, however you try to confine me or conform or whatever, I'm going to find my way to like show you who I am.
Right.
And that's what it is. Like, I'm going to, wherever I am, even if I'm dressed up, if you wonder who I am, when I sit down and you see the legs slide up and you see the socks, you're gonna remember who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, we maybe all be up in here in blue, like power suits, what have you. But when we sit down, you're gonna understand who you're gonna know who you dealing with when you look down. Yeah.
All right, so we got like 8 minutes or so left. So I want to give you this time to you know, we get interviewed all the time and people don't let us say what we want to say, and kind of just let you take the floor and talk about anything you want to talk about. You can talk about, you know, anything you got going on, anything you got coming up, life stuff, anything you want people to learn, know about you, whatever you want. This is your time to do your thing. So I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Man, look, man, the biggest thing, you know, the thing that's kind of in this moment, this has been heavy. It's about being good to yourself, and being mindful that your way is your way. Mm-hmm. So I have this thing that I always say, and it's that I don't want anything that's not intended for me. And then it got reinforced by there's a brother who runs Broccoli Fest, which is an amazing festival in DC. It's like a music cultural festival tied to like healthy eating, and like it's an amazing movement. And he went to college down here, so he was down here visiting. He was on a panel, and he talked about that thing that happens when you see someone like a peer or someone like succeeding, and you feel something. You feel that twinge or that feeling. And he's like, it's not. Don't pass it off as being jealous. It's not always jealousy. Mm-hmm. It's not that you want what they have. He's like, a lot of times it's recognition that what you're seeing them accomplish is telling you that there's something you're not going after. There's something that you're not working after the way you could. There's something that you're seeing that you could be doing that you haven't, or that you've backed off of, or that you're not going after as hard as you should. And when he said that, it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. Like, when I see something, I have an opinion about it, but in that moment, I'm happy and I'm celebrating that, because I don't know, if you're not careful, you'll believe is that you want that thing, and God forbid you go after it and find out that I don't want it. I don't want what you had to do to get it. Like, this environment ain't for me, because now you're stuck somewhere and you invested time in something that you have no business wanting. So I was like, that's a reminder. It's good to think, when I see it, ask myself, do I have a problem with this? Or is it that I'm watching someone move how they're supposed to move in order to be affirmed or to be celebrated? And I done took the last 3 weeks, you know what I'm saying? Or I done took the last year and set something aside that I know I probably should be investing energy in. I just didn't believe it, then give it to myself, then give myself grace or room to. So if you feel that tug when you see him, it's not a lack, it's a reminder.
Mm.
You know, it's a reminder. Like there's something that I believe just like that person believed could be something impactful, and I haven't given it time. I chose to do something else, or I got pulled in another direction. And seeing that reminds me that there's a thing that I feel like could be impactful too, that like I need to be investing time in. And I want to offer that because I go through that so much. You know, with like, where's my, like, what, you know, there's so many different things you can be doing.
Yeah.
And then you got, you know, you go through this. There's so many folks wanting to like get your opinion or get you involved. Can you come to do this? And after a while, if you're not careful, you're serving so many other folks other than yourself.
That's right.
And if you believe in being of service, you just make yourself believe that that's what you should be doing. Right? Because you're being of service. And it's like, nah, what drew them to you was the way you were moving.
Absolutely.
And so what you have to remember is to be able to always be able to be of service is to continue to move the way that you move. Wow. And so that means some things you're going to be able to do and some things you're not. But if you continue to move the way you move, if they can't work with you now, they'll be happy to work with you later.
Yeah.
But what you can't sacrifice is the way you move. And you've got to know that it is your way is your way. It'll get celebrated in ways that may not get celebrated the same as others. That doesn't mean it's not being celebrated. I've learned, doesn't mean it's not getting recognized. When you show up in a place and you introduce yourself and the person's like, oh, and you realize your name got farther than you did. But you would have never known until you met that person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they don't know you. They have heard of you. Right. So until you meet them, you would have never known. But then you find out, oh, well, damn, like that thing I did. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, you did such and such with a friend of mine. And you're like, damn, that was like last year. So for 12 months, right? Your name, like, folks just glowing about whatever you did 12 months ago. Yeah. And you ain't heard nothing else about it since, but you end up walking into a room where folks are like, oh my God, oh, you do amazing work. And you're like, yeah, you did this thing. And I'm like, oh, damn, that was 12 months ago.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And generally for me, when that happens, there's in that moment, there's the possibility of whatever the next seed is getting planted to be, right? Which means that it was waiting for me. Now, if I had did that thing, and whenever the people who were there that saw that thing and had ideas for the next 3 months of whatever they wanted me to do, if I got off track away from moving, then I don't end up in that room.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't end up in that room. And you know, so it's like where I find out, you know what I'm saying, and get the opportunity to, so your way is your way. And you just gotta do that. We've all gotta just keep pushing and plugging. And remember that
celebrate. Got about a minute left. Oh no.
Okay. Just to remember that, and that impact matters. KRS-One used to say that, you know, talk about stage performance. He was like, stage performance is so important because if you're good on stage, it's like insurance. You'll always get called back. The way you move and the way you have that impact on the ground will always hold weight. And whenever you don't think it is, somebody will let you know, I know you because I know your work. And now I have a chance to know you in person. And let me like, and with that is going to be, I either have a piece of advice, an opportunity, or something to give you because I want to make sure you keep moving how you move. Yeah. So I just want to put that out there, especially during these times, because it's so tough to navigate. Keep moving how you move. Your way is your way, and it's going to always pay off.
Well, listen, Dasan, hold on. I don't want you to leave off the broadcast. Stay behind talking for a few seconds.
Okay.
Shut down. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. This was amazing. I told you it was going to be super powerful because this brother is super dope. I got a lot of inspiration from him over the years that I met him and known him. So thank y'all for tuning in. We'll be right back tomorrow. I'm going to put his information in the feed since we didn't have time to put it up there because I was talking too much. But thank y'all for tuning in, and we will see y'all tomorrow morning, same time, coffee time with Coach Ja. Let's make it happen. Peace and love.
Peace.